Hello, everyone. My name is Dustin Cerny, the Director of Advanced Technologies here at FastTest. And we're here today to talk about how our smart technology can improve leak testing reliability, and specifically our connection verification feature. We've seen this solve a lot of problems in manufacturers all over the United States and elsewhere across the world. And we believe it has many, many benefits to reduce waste and save time for manufacturers doing leak testing. Unfortunately, our webcam is down today, so I won't be able to do a live demo. However, we have many videos on our website that overview it and go over the different programming techniques and how it works visually. And we'll definitely set up another webinar to do some more advanced connection verification techniques and do some different live demos there. So connection verification. Oh, one second. The main benefit is it helps reduce waste in manufacturing. We've seen false failures as the main problem in leak testing cells all over the place. And a false failure occurs when a product fails a leak test, but no leaks are actually present with the product. Something else in the system is signaling a leak in the instrumentation, whether it's the connection, different pilot pressure, the placement of the seals. We see a lot of homemade connections and rigging used out in our customer sites, and those really provide unnatural and inconsistent sealing forces, which really compound false failures and create different safety problems. Another issue that can happen with homemade connections are false positives. When a device is sealed on itself or it masks a leak in a product, that can create a warranty issue down the road that is quite costly for a manufacturer. Some of those problems have different costs for the manufacturer. When you see a false failure, most of the time they're retesting the product or troubleshooting, trying to troubleshoot why it was leaking when there really was no leak present. So there's a considerable amount of lost production time. And we see that as one of the greatest opportunity costs that connection verification can alleviate. We've got some different opportunity cost calculators available, and we'll highlight those in a little bit. Another cost of false failures are excessive warranty claims. As I mentioned, if you have a false positive, that allows a leaking product to get out into the real world, which is what we want to control and help reduce cost of quality. And unnecessary troubleshooting. And in the medical world, when a product fails a leak test, most often it is scrapped and thrown out, whether it is good or bad. Some medical devices are able to be retested twice, but more often than not, they're just throwing it away. And so, if there's something like a worn seal that's causing a leak, they're throwing out product 10, 20 times before someone raises their hand to check the system. And all of that is considerable waste that can be eliminated with connection verification. So here is our solution to solve the false failure problem. That is connection verification, and we have it available in our FE and FI series products for internal and external sealing. We are also developing it for the FastMate series. We've heard that manual connections can be a big problem in the world, and being able to tell that an operator placed a device onto a product is very beneficial in many ways, and connection verification allows you to collect a data point for Industry 4.0 systems. It really helps track and document that this product was tested and that you are testing the product, not the test system. So connection verification, as you can see here, really tells you that that device was inserted properly and sealed onto that product. In the event of a failed connection on the right, we don't provide a green LED. And the way we're doing this is by embedding a position sensor in the product right in here, and that actually measures the stroke of this piston. So what we do is calibrate that stroke to what is a good connection, and if that travel exceeds the limits that we've set, you don't get the good response. So connection verification provides a check on your system and all the connections that are attached to the product before you start the leak test. And that's the inherent value that it provides. Instead of getting false failures and retesting and troubleshooting different products and systems and engines, you know that your connections are good before you start that test. So for an FE or FI product, it's a pneumatic device, and to get a consistent seal on it every time, you need 4 key attributes to be consistent themselves. The connector needs to be placed in the same spot every time. The pilot pressure that's applied to it provides the consistent sealing force, and that needs to be in the same area. And the connector seals. Over time, they wear, and that will cause the piston travel to change. But that also provides us the ability to recognize when that piston travel's reached its maximum limit and create a worn seal alert. So I know that's a big problem with many of our customers in FE and FI products. When a seal wears out, you start to get the false failures, signaling a failed product when it's really not the product, it's actually the test system that is leaking. And then the product being tested also needs to have consistent dimensions. If you get a gross tolerance variation, that'll change the travel of our piston in that device. So it's really a simple feature that we're providing a position measurement on that product. It's very similar to different cylinders and actuators on the market. However, this is a proprietary sensor that we developed to really finely measure that travel, and we can pick up about a 1/10 of an inch of travel, so it's a very, very accurate sensor. For those not familiar with automated test systems, this is just a quick overview diagram. On the left, you've got a PLC, which is your brains, that ties in all the different components of that system. We are showing an actuator assembly, an electronic leak test instrument, different conveyors, and then our FE with connection verification. And we've seen this in some different automated applications that are testing high volume filters, millions of units a year. And previously, our FE product would be triggered to actuate with a pressure switch, and then the PLC would wait 1 second for it to actuate and seal on the device. And that's what they had to do because there's no feedback on what that pneumatic device did. But now, with connection verification, you get a signal that it's properly actuated, it's sealed, and then that system can move on to its next operation automatically. And we've seen a manufacturer take a 1 second preset delay and bring it down to about a 1/2 second. And over 1 million cycles, that's a significant time savings overall across the year. This is a system overview of how you can tie connection verification into different systems. We have a programming tool that allows it to be used standalone out of the box. You can be set up within minutes. No PLC programming is required when you're using the programming tool. That's kind of the first scenario and first way to set it up. Second, you can use the programming tool in line, which provides a teach button that sets the limits of what is a good connection and what isn't very easily. And then you can tie that into a PLC so you're collecting the data that the connectors were actuated and actuated properly. In addition, you can tie this directly into a PLC. If you've got a controls engineer on staff or you're adept at integrating different components together, our product is set up to tie directly into a PLC. And we have instructions available on how to do that. One note, when you have multiple connectors present, connection verification allows you to identify the problematic ones. We have many applications when you're testing engines. There are 10 to 20 different sealing devices on that engine. And when you have all of them that are smart enabled with connection verification, you can pick out a problem area immediately instead of going around and checking all of them, which happens considerably today. We do have discrete and analog signal output options available. And discrete's just a basic on or off, it's in position or it's not. And analog gives you the ability to watch where that position is over time. And there's many, many benefits that come from utilizing an analog output signal. And at a later date, we'll do another webinar on analog signals and how to use that with connection verification. So what does this mean for manufacturers? We've gone over some of the problems with rigging and homemade solutions. We've talked about what connection verification is and what it can do to say you have a proper connection. So what does it mean in terms of an ROI and a value to manufacturers? And that's what we want to get into now. One of the main benefits, and we touched on it a little bit, is it eliminates waste. Without CV or connection verification, many times an operator will run a leak test at a station. The leak test system will say it failed. They'll either retest it on the spot, or many times they send it to a different station to get tested and rerun the leak test at that station number 2, and then for some reason it passes, which is a different result than what they had. So then they end up going back and diagnosing their first station and understanding what went wrong there, when really it was most likely a connection issue. So with connection verification, as you can see, when they actuate the connectors, they immediately get an alert that it's good or not. So it's instant feedback much sooner in the process. This is how it can save, hundreds of thousands of dollars for different manufacturers. So if they actuate, they don't get a good response, they can look at the seal placement. Is every connector placed properly? Is the pilot pressure still consistent to all of the connectors? Is the main seal worn? Those are different things that the operator can immediately diagnose and check for. Instead of looking at unknowns, is it the product? Sometimes I've seen different manufacturers go and take a product and dunk it in a tank to look for bubbles after a pressure decay test just to pinpoint where a leak is, and they're not finding anything. So there's many different ways that CV can alleviate problems and streamline leak test cells. Here are a couple opportunity cost examples for false failures. We a lot of times look at the first pass yield rate of a leak test cell, and if it's anything under 95%, there's a significant cost savings that can come from adding connection verification. On the top line, we've got an example of a component supplier. If they are seeing one false failure per day and their retest time is 1 minute, or their leak test time is 1 minute, and their production cost is $150 a minute, over the course of the year, that is $37,000 in opportunity costs that they're missing out and losing on their production time. When you move to more complex products like subassemblies, we've just increased the test time to 3 minutes, and the production cost at that point is $400 a minute. That can be $300,000 a year in production time they're losing out on. And in engine manufacturing, one of the more complex products that's produced around the world, at the leak test cell, that engine has been fully assembled and a significant amount of cost has gone into it. So we've estimated production costs at about $1,000 a minute and a test time on that engine of 2 minutes. And if they see 5 false failures a day, that can add up to $2.5 million in production time that is lost. And 5 false failures a day, we've got a note there, correlates to about a 99% first pass yield at 500 engines a day. And we rarely see manufacturers producing at 99% first pass yield. Now, rigging isn't the only problem that can cause a failure or a first pass yield failure. But we've seen it as one of the core problems and the main problems overall, especially with engines because there's so many different connection points. We do have a detailed opportunity cost calculator. You can see here the example we've used for engine testing and engine test cells, and we can see that it is a significant opportunity cost. In this scenario, let's say an engine manufacturer has an 85% first pass yield. They're testing 100 engines a day, which is pretty low, but their first pass yield failures due to rigging are 80%, which leads to 12 engines being retested every day. Their test times for minutes an engine at a production cost of $1,000 a minute adds up to $12 million in opportunity costs from retesting engines that are good and leak-free. Now, if you add in warranty claims due to the high leak rate that an engine manufacturer uses to kind of get by with their quality system, let's say 2 engines a day get through that are leaking. Maybe their homemade rigging has created some unnatural forces that are compressing components together and masking a leak. This can happen and does happen. At a warranty cost of $10,000 per engine, which is probably quite low, that's another $5 million a year that is lost. And if you add in the overtime expense to meet production rates that they were supposed to achieve due to all the retesting and false failure work, it's another $600,000. So on one engine line, that can be upwards of $17 million of opportunity cost and production time that is lost every year due to leak test connections and failures. This is what connection verification can save engine manufacturers. So it is a significant value we provide with this solution. In that application, we see this a lot with our FI products. Testing a coolant system on the engine, operators were inconsistently placing the main seal, so there was an 85% first pass yield that we discussed in that opportunity cost calculator. And you can see over here on the right what can happen. This creates a leak path because your seal isn't fully inserted. Many molecules, air molecules, will get right through this. And what this also does is cause your main seals to wear faster. So you end up with more false failures from worn seals more often, which is additional waste and cost to that manufacturer. So for this customer, we installed an FI3 with connection verification on the coolant port. So the operators would get a visual alert immediately that the connector was properly sealed and prevented the false failures, and we saw their first pass yield move up to 95%. I think we eliminated the majority of those leak testing connection issues for them, saving them about $8 million in production time. It's quite significant. We've also seen a medical device manufacturer that was testing these different lures, and the little green areas that are highlighted is where they wanted to seal on for the test. And this was a manual test with operators inserting these into our FE01 product. And without connection verification, they were running into many placement issues, and this was a new line that they couldn't get up and running. So they couldn't meet their output goals, and this was a major headache for this manufacturing engineer. And then so they moved to a connection verification enabled FE01. And they were able to place their lures into the connector, and the operators got that visual alert that it was placed correctly, and they were able to start their test from that output signal. So we really helped get them up and running significantly faster than they would have if they were spending time designing fixtures and jigs trying to get, foolproof that system for those operators. So a couple common questions that we get with connection verification. What's the lead time? Our most common sizes ship out within 2 weeks. So we can satisfy immediate products very quickly and get units out for customers to validate the technology on short order. And if you're looking for the detailed opportunity cost calculator, please shoot me a note. I'm absolutely able to provide that. You can use that to assess your application in your production line to see how much connection verification can save your company over a year. And is it difficult to integrate? Absolutely not. It can be set up out of the box within minutes using our programming tools. So it can be a very simple device if you want it to be, or it can be more complex with the analog output that's tied directly into a PLC. And we'll definitely show a demo of that at a later date, so please stay tuned for that webinar. And as I mentioned, we will have connection verification available soon for our FastMate series. And if you have any other questions or smart feature requests you're looking for from FastTest, I'm certainly open to hearing those, and we'll make sure we provide exactly what our customers are looking for. So thank you for attending. I apologize we did not get to the live demo. We're going to have to upgrade our webcam and get that going for the next round, which will be advanced connection verification with analog output. So thank you everyone for the time today. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them my way, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you, and have a good day.